Okay, there we go. We're on page 24 and we are doing funeral blues tonight. It's the 11th of April and it's our English home language. Here we go. I have this open. Just get here. I think this is on page 30 over here. I'll be with you in a minute. Okay, there we go. Let's read. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crape bows around the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now, but put out everyone, pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. Okay, let's have a look at the summary on the next, on page 24 in your booklets, and then we can come back to the poem. So the speaker expresses his overpowering feelings of grief at the death of his loved one. He feels that there should be dramatic public displays of mourning, such as putting black bows around the necks of doves flying around the city to show the devastating extent of his loss. He describes how important his beloved is to him in every possible context and how he had assumed that their love would last his whole life. He ends the poem with an almost apocalyptic, that means imagine the complete destruction of the world. He ends the poem with an almost apocalyptic desire to pack away the entire natural world because he feels that without his loved one, nothing good will ever happen. So he's saying, I'm grieving. I want everybody to see I'm grieving. I want everybody to come. I want you to pack away things. I want to tell you about what this person meant to me. And then at the end of it, he says, pack away the natural world because he feels that without his loved one, nothing good will ever happen. Now let's go back to the poem itself. Yes.
I want to see the poem, right?
Okay, let me go back there. I'm so sorry. That is the sister go. Is it not on the screen? Is it not displayed on the screen, Taz, when I read it?
Not at all.
Okay, let me go back there and see if you can you see the text? The one that I just read?
No.
Can you? Okay, this page, can you see this particular page?
My stress stops reading and this street because I can't see anything either.
Okay, let me see. I'm just going to do this and this.
Just playing the white folder.
Okay, I'll have a look at it now. What about screens? Now let's have a look if I do it this time around. Can you see this?
Yes.
Anything?
Yes, we can see it now.
Thank you so much, Sister Girl. Let's move on.
No problem.
Nice say sy go, ons kan nie meer nou bekry nie, sê weer nou lankal. Yeah, here we go. Let's read it again. It says, stop Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows. As you can see, crepe means it's a lightly crinkled fabric, crepe. Yeah? Put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policeman wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east, and my west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out everyone. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. Okay. Do you get it now? Okay, let's go through it. See what we have. Back to page 24 it is. We just read the summary. Now let's discuss the title of this poem. In fact, let's see if we can get to the theme. The theme just below type and form reads as follows. The poem concerns grief and mourning for a lost loved one. Okay, so it's about grief and mourning for a lost loved one and the impulse to spread the dreadful news far and wide. This is like someone who is afraid that the funeral is going to be empty. And so almal moet weet. It demonstrates how shocking it can be to realize that love may not in fact last forever. So you always thought that love was going to last forever, but it's so shocking to him that it's not going to be the case. Okay, let's go back up. And this is W.H. Auden. Weston Hugh Auden was one of the most influential poets of the 20th century. So yes, now let's discuss the title of the poem. The blues is a genre of music. Remember, the title is Funeral Blues. So the blues is a genre of music originating in the United States among the African American community, arising from the songs sung by slaves from West Africa or from West Africa. It features slow, reflective melodies and lyrics and often uses the sorrows of life as a subject. From this we get the concept of having the blues. You have Monday blues. It's sad. It's a heavy feeling, meaning to feel sad or depressed. The title therefore refers to the feeling of sadness associated with the death of a loved one. Okay, so there's sad feelings. When they talk about blues, it is associated with the sad feelings associated with the death of a loved one. And if they ask you where blues come from, you will say it originated in the United States among the African American community, arising from the songs sung by slaves. Okay, let's talk about type and form. I wonder if you remember what an elegy is. Elegy. En nou in Afrikaans het ons gedoen 'n ode, 'n pryslied, en toe doen ons 'n elegie, né? And then we said an elegie kom van die woord eulogy af, né? So dis 'n treurlied. Okay. So this would be a mournful funeral song actually. This type and form, or the type and form of this poem could be classified as an elegy. It's a mournful funeral poem, or a dirge, what we call a mournful funeral song for someone who has died. The poem has 4 stanzas. Whenever they ask you about type and form, you write what you see. 4 stanzas with 4 lines each. There's a consistent rhyming scheme, and you can read that when you read it again. A, A, B, B, C, 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 D, D, E. So it's coupled rhyme. Yeah? Then an elegy often has a slow pace, but in this poem, the pace is fast, as if the speaker is rushing to say everything he or she feels until the pace slows down towards the end. Now, if you go back to the poem, no man, what did I do? Alright, why did that happen? I'm so sorry everyone, let me just get back to the poem. So if you go, what page is this? Oh, this is on page 30. Sorry about this. If you go back to the poem, you'll see it says, stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone. Can you see how fast that reads? Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he's dead. You can see as it goes on. So he uses short words like that. But then it says that towards the end, it becomes slower. The pace becomes slower. And normally when that happens, a person would use either long sounding vowels or assonance. No? In this instance, let's see what he did. The last stanza. The stars are not wanted now. Put out everyone. Pack up the moon. Can you see the long sound, double O? And dismantle the sun. Pour, the word pour away. The ocean. Can you see that? All the assonance happening in there. And sweep up the wood. For nothing can ever come to any good. So only towards the end does it become slower. And normally a mournful poem would read very slow. But in this instance, why? They can ask you, why is the poem, the pace of the poem faster in the beginning? It's like this person wanted to say everything he wanted to say before he gets to the end of it. So you can see an elegy often has a slow pace, but in this poem the pace is fast, as if the speaker is rushing to say everything. Okay, great. We've discussed the theme, and now let's talk about the images he's using. Do you have another one for me? I'm so sorry. Thank you. Let's go. Let's talk about, remember, imagery is about the images, the pictures he's painting. In stanza 1, the speaker describes the manner in which he would like the death of his loved one to be noted. He makes an illusion of several mourning customs common in the 19th century Britain, but now seldom seen. So in line 1 on the next page, he commands that we should stop the clocks, which was a custom in a house in which someone had died to signify that time had ceased for the departed person. So they would stop the clock, let's say it said 1 o'clock. Nowadays, doctors, if you die, they would say you died at this particular time, and they would note that. So then it says, cut off the telephone. And why? This was also done to prevent disturbance in a house of mourning. Then he shows the same desire for silence and the need to stop inappropriate sounds in line 2 when he speaks of preventing the dog from barking. So he says, stop the dog, prevent the dog from barking. Why? Because he has a need for silence now. Instead of happy or tuneful piano music, he wants the slow, solemn beat of muffled drums, which describe the drums used at a funeral procession with cloth around the drumsticks to soften the noise. This is still done at some official or military funerals. So they would have the sticks that they would hit the drums with, but it would be muffled by means of having either a piece of sponge around it or a piece of cloth around it, so that the sound is a bit dampened or muffled. Then he is ready for the coffin to be brought out as the mourners arrive. There we go. In stanza 2, so let me read that again. Let aeroplanes, he says, silence the pianos in stanza 1, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Now, in stanza 2, the speaker expresses his need for his overwhelming grief to be demonstrated to the public, like he wants everybody to see that he is mourning. He would like to see aeroplanes overhead, writing in the sky for all to see the bad news that reads, he is dead. He would like the bows of black crepe to be tied around the necks of doves. That's almost impossible. The custom was to display fabric bows on the door of the deceased home to to alert any visitors of the deaths. In other words, they were bows around, like stuff that we do now. If someone died on the road, they would go and put a cross there. But in that instance, what they did way back then was to actually put bows around on the doors of households where someone had passed on. Then even the policeman should wear black gloves. This is what he wants. These exaggerated desires, and you can use that underline exaggerated, that's obviously the hyperbole that he uses. These hyperbole emphasize how the speaker is almost wild with grief. He's so crazy, he wants everybody to see that. I have a cousin, we call her Hail Mary. We have a funeral, she must be there because she cries like you have to carry her out for anything and everyone. It's bad for her. Nee, sy sê heilig. En ek meen sy ken jou nie, sy dan heel sê dat sy in mekaar sit. So mooi. So if she's in the need, now we're going to have a good funeral. Okay. Then several metaphors in stanza 3 show how much, remember metaphor, you want to underline that, how much the speaker's loved one meant to him. They are images representing the completeness of their love. So they can ask you, talk to us about the images using to represent the completeness of their love. So in line 9, the speaker refers to all four, that's what you want to underline, compass directions, your north, south, east, and west. And why? Showing that the person's presence in his life, this is what you want to underline, gave him direction and stability. So the compass symbolized direction and stability. Their love filled every day of the week in line 10 and all hours of the day and all happy leisure activities. What did their love represent? It filled every day of the week and all hours of the day and all happy leisure activities. So if you read it, it reads as such: he was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week, that's every hour of the day or every day of the week, and my Sunday rest, that was the weekend, my noon, my daylight, every hour of the day, my talk, my song. I say all happy leisure activities. Then in the last stanza, the speaker shows his feelings of despair. That's what you want to underline. How does he do that? By referring to the wider context of stars, moon, ocean, and woods. For example, he wants the stars to be put out as their light has no relevance to him now. Okay. His feelings of despair. How does he use imagery? He says, put the lights out, it has no relevance. Put out the stars. That's it. Now let's talk about the diction used. Remember, diction has to do with words. Words that are being used in a certain way. So let's see what it does. In stanza 1, after the death in the family during the 19th century, instructions would be given for the mourning customs to be observed. For example, black clothes were worn and crepe bows were put on the front door. In stanza 1, the speaker seems to be imitating these instructions. His words take the form of brief authoritative commands. You can see, he says, do this, do this, do this, and the other. So that's what you want to know, that his words take the form of brief authoritative commands. He's just giving instructions, imitating instructions. The words he uses describe the way in which a death halts the normal routine of life and introduces a period of sadness and reflection in which attention must be given to the necessary arrangements. In other words, for instance, the verbs that he uses in here, for example, speak of ending the normal routine, like stop this. He literally says, stop the clocks. He says, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking. And then he talks about silence the pianos. So those words, what do? It ends the normal routine of life. That's what you want to underline. It ends the normal routine of life. Stop, cut off, and prevent. Then in stanza 2, In this stanza, the speaker mentions aeroplanes moaning. I surmise that aeroplanes moaning is an example of personification because aeroplanes can't really moan, and we are giving the aeroplanes the personality of a living thing, or the characteristics of a living thing. So, in this stanza, the speaker mentions aeroplanes moaning, a word that describes a noise of pain and grief. The message he would like the aeroplanes to scribble on the sky is, he is dead. So they can ask you, what is the message you would like the aeroplanes to scribble? It's, he is dead, in line 6. This simple statement, the person's name is not mentioned, but he and dead are given underlined, that capital letters. Why? It seems to indicate that this person is so important that it is not necessary to use his name. He mentions crepe bows and black cotton gloves, which indicates mourning. Crepe bows and black cotton gloves indicates mourning. Now, in stanza 3, the speaker describes what his loved one meant to him, beginning with he was in line 9, and then listing the images that show the completeness of their love. He repeats the word my many times in lines 9 to 11. To do what? If they ask you about the repetition of the word my, it's to emphasize their closeness, because it makes it very personal. He says, my moon, let me just get those words. My noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. Okay. Then in line 12, the speaker makes a simple statement using the word I. Why? It shows his new state of loneliness. So my would show or reflect their closeness, and the word I now reflects his loneliness. And where he acknowledges how wrong he had been to think that his loved one would always be with him. So you can see it says there's a colon, and then it says I was wrong. I'm listing a reason after the colon. Next page. In stanza 4, the words used in this stanza shows how the speaker has lost all enthusiasm for life. He feels as if the world may as well end, and uses words and phrases such as not wanted and put out. It says pack up the sun, or wherever it is, and dismantle the sun. So he says pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Why is he doing that? Let's read. And then he says pour away and sweep up. This reminds us of someone, there's your answer, packing up the belongings of a dead person, or cleaning up after something is over and done. The phrase nothing now in the last line, and it reads as follows: for nothing now can ever come to any good. So the phrase nothing now in the last line, here's your answer, emphasizes that the speaker feels there's nothing left for him after this loss. He has suffered such a big blow, and now he says nothing now. Okay, in this poem they might definitely refer to tone, because it's an elegy, and it's important for you to note what the tone of an elegy would be. So, in stanza 1, the speaker's tone is curt. In other words, he's speaking shortly and almost angrily as he issues the sad instructions about setting up the signs of mourning. He's stopping everything that represents everyday life. The only thing he welcomes is the coffin and the mourners. Like, stop nou net, ek die lus vir selfsie, maar gaan die wiste uit. So he's talking like that really, no? Yeah, so he's angry actually. So it's almost angrily, and he's speaking shortly. So the speaker's tone, underline that, is curt, and then underline speaking shortly and almost angrily. Then in stanza 2, his desire is to share his loss with others, even the general public, leads to an almost hysterical tone. That's the next tone in stanza 2. hysterical tone, as he suggests impossible ways of marking this death that means so much to him. So he's becoming impossible. Someone that's hysteric is just like, yeah, you better bring this. I want this now. Blah 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 blah. Bring for me the show and bring him mine or whatever. So the person becomes hysterical. And then he also wants the aeroplanes to write, he is dead in the sky, and putting crepe bows around the necks of doves. Who can do that? In stanza 3, this stanza brings a still sad but calmer mood as the speaker describes nostalgically how his loved one meant everything to him. So this is a calmer mood. Um, and he describes nostalgically how his loved one meant everything to him. The stanza concludes with a moving statement in line 12, I was wrong. This antithesis, in other words, you have a thesis and then something that is opposite, the thesis that he started with, demonstrates what a shock the sudden and unexpected loss of his love has been to him. So hold up, his thesis was that their love would last forever. And then the antithesis, the opposite, now shocks him really. It says, I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. Now, let's talk about stanza 4. The speaker then returns to his tone of near hysterical grief when he describes how he wants to put out the stars and dismantle the sun. This demonstrates the depth of his grief and is reinforced by the bleak statement in the last line, nothing good. So they can ask you, how does the bleak, okay, wait, hold a minute. How do we demonstrate, or how does the speaker demonstrate the depth of his grief? You can then refer to the last line, nothing good can come of this. You can also say that his tone is nearly hysterical. It's hysterical grief when he describes how he wants to put out the stars and dismantle the sun. Okay, great. That's it. So let's go back to that tone. Number 1, in stanza 1, the tone is curt, speaking shortly, almost angrily. In stanza 2, the tone is almost hysterical, as he suggests impossible ways of marking this death that means so much to him. In stanza 3, the stanza brings a still sad but calmer mood. It's still sad, but it's calm this time. And then the speaker then returns to his tone of nearly hysterical grief. There we go. Thank you so much. If you can, I would love for you to stay on, because I'd like to go over some paper 1 work. Okay, let's just finish this off. Again, towards the end of I want to say this, you can use as what's the word I'm looking for, as revision. When you go and do revision, you can go to important points. You can see in stanza 1, they'll give you the rhyming scheme, they'll speak about the content. The speaker describes how he wants to stop all everyday activity and observe strict mourning. Here's the poetic devices he uses. He uses an allusion to old-fashioned mourning practices. There's an allusion to that. And then there's an enjambment in line 3 and 4. Now, the allusion, what's the effect there are? It emphasizes the depth of his grief. And then why does he use enjambment? It gives a smooth transition to the final line and puts the emphasis on coffin. Now, if you go to the poem again, it would read, stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. And then in the next 2 lines, you have enjambment, which means no punctuation in between those 2 lines. It says, silence the pianos and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Then you get a comma. You can see that. Here's what they tell you. It gives a smooth transition to the final line, but puts the emphasis on coffin because there's a rest after coffin. Okay, so you can go through every one of those blocks and then read it from left to right so that you can understand what exactly those functions are. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Just see if there's any first additional guys online. Okay, I think we can go on. If you're okay, we can go back. Remember, I sent you a question paper last week. But you do remember that, no? What do I do now? Do I add you to a group? I must send it to you again. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to use what I have on the screen, and then you can follow. Okay, great. Let's quickly see. Go back here. Maybe I want to do exam papers. Yeah. I'll do this one. This is the one definitely. And then I want to go back and open this one. We'll close this and that, and then I'm going to be dealing with this. Okay, great. Everybody online, do you have this document open? I think we did. Did I ask you to do this last one on your own?
Was this the paper you gave us last week?
Yes, the 2016 one.
Okay.
Okay.
Get it quick.
No problem. We'll wait for you. Just let us know when you're there.
Okay.
Let me just get my booklet. Okay, so let's read that particular question. It says, Africa, which is often regarded as the cradle of Oscar winners, we are doing, I think we're on the last page of this paper. It's 5.10. Did we do 5.5? Where did we finish? I think we did the adverbial form.
5.5.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Okay, so remember how we form adverbs? How do we do that? Adverbial form? What do we do? Anyone online? You add ly. Remember that.
What did I just say now?
No, I didn't hear you at all. I'm sorry. Sorry, who's this speaking? Oh, it's Taz. Oh, sorry, Taz. Well done. No, wanneer is jy nie moed want as jy nie klas is jy nie moed en jy bereik is jy ook nie moed. Wat gaan aan met jou? Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. Let me just quickly do this. I just realized that I want to do this separately.